Woo! I'm back.
What's going on, YouTube? I'm that cologne guy E, and this is Simply Put Scents. On this channel, I entertain you while talking about some of the best and worst fragrances on the market today, and my goal is to help you save time and money while helping you smell your best. So do hit that subscribe button and that notification bell so you're notified every time I release a new video. What's going on, guys? Yeah. I wanted to talk to you about a fragrance that came out by a new independent brand that was released in 2018. The brand is known as Ryan Richmond, and the scent is called Rich Mess. Now, a representative from Ryan Richmond hit me up to possibly share the scent with you guys. So they sent me a bottle so I could test it. And I really tested it. I let them know that I would be very honest about the pros and cons of this fragrance, and I asked them not to send it if they were opposed to an honest, no-holds-barred review. And they agreed. And I'm happy to share my thoughts with you guys on this very interesting award-winning fragrance. So who is Ryan Richmond? Ryan Richmond is a cinematographer by trade, but he also has a passion for perfume and decided to go for it and create his own scent. He became friends with perfumer Christophe Laudemire, who is known for creating the bestsellers Fierce by Abercrombie & Fitch and the original Polo Blue by Ralph Lauren. He also created Amber Absolute by Tom Ford, among others, and together they created Rich Mess. So, what does Rich Mess smell like? Well, to be real, guys, when you first spray it, it smells like its name. Actually, it smells like the messy part of its name. I mean, picture going to a niche fragrance store where they house very expensive fragrances. And while you're there, you sprayed like a bunch of different blotters, dozens of fragrances on different blotters, worth a combined, let's say, $5,000. And before you leave, you gathered all of those blotters that you sprayed all of those fragrances on, and you gave them all one final whiff at the same time. Smelling that combo of various expensive fragrances is how Rich Mess greets you in the first half hour. Some may hear that and think, no, I'm good. You ain't lying. I'll pass. But my first thoughts when I smelled Rich Mess was, wow. I mean, the start was really aggressive, almost careless. It's not trying to fit in the mainstream at all. This fragrance comes across as a middle finger to appropriateness. It's a misfit of a fragrance. It's essentially a musky leather scent with tons of fig, wood, vanilla, and saffron. When you first spray it, it can overwhelm you, especially if you're not used to niche perfumes. The opening features a really green fig note that gives off hints of coconut. It even smells slightly milky. In the beginning stages, this is where the moments where the citruses pop out through the composition. Within an hour, the green fig melts into a bed of smooth sandalwood, cedar, vanilla, and leather. And it is in this stage when Rich Mess becomes a lot less messy. Rich Mess is edgy, earthy, dark, and leans masculine. Women, I think, can easily wear this, but if you're a lady and you want to smell soft and feminine and pretty, this won't be the best option for you. But if you're the type of lady who likes a very unique, interesting scent, you might really love this and find that you smell very sexy wearing it. Rich Mess, I feel, is for folks who have a more extrovert personality and like scents that stand out and makes a bold statement. The dry down is a mix again of sandalwood and creamy vanilla and that animalic musky leather. The leather gets more and more dirty during the life of the scent. Overall, Rich Mess is a statement fragrance, and the statement is boom. Performance. Now the performance of Rich Mess is huge. If you like your scents to fill the space, you will love Rich Mess. It stayed on my skin for at least 10 hours, and the sillage from just one spray literally fills the room you walk into. It was like a giant cloud that enveloped me and the people who dared stand around me. It's a real monster for the first 3 hours. And you might just only need 1 or 2 sprays under your underclothes and your shirt and you're set. This fragrance could easily be oversprayed, and anything over 3 sprays and you will have people pointing in your direction. Like, I promise. Rich Mess makes a great night out scent during colder months. I would easily wear this fragrance formally in a suit or with a leather jacket and dark jeans. Some guys would probably suggest to not wear a scent like this to the club, but if you want to be that guy people remembers the next day, I would easily consider this fragrance. Like, a drunk person will remember this fragrance the next day.
Bro, you need to stop drinking, bro. Yo, what?
It'll stand out in a sea of Paco Rabanne and Sauvage, I promise. There's nothing trendy about this fragrance. It's not fitting a mainstream trend at all. It will never smell dated or out of style because there's nothing that connects it to a time period. It didn't remind me of any scent I've ever smelled before. It kind of reminded me of a group of fragrances. Again, like imagine smelling a bunch of blotters after you've visited like a niche boutique. That's kind of like what this fragrance is doing. The style of Rich Mess will seem familiar to fans of niche fragrances, but the execution is far from common. In terms of style of scent, if you're a fan of Le Labo, DS and Durga, Amouage, or Slumber House, you might appreciate Rich Mess. Now, Rich Mess sells for $120 for 50 mils and $210 for 100 mil. And at that price point, I feel like the 50 mil especially is a really, really good value. It will last forever and it's really unique to warrant that price point. It actually smells conceptual and very, very niche. So I feel like the price point is warranted. Is Rich Mess a likable scent? Not really. If you aren't used to fragrances like this, you might not like this at all. It's not an easy to like Sauvage, Bleu de Chanel, or Prada L'Homme fragrance. It's really, really totally different from that. Like, totally different. It was not made for everyone. And it's not a scent that you wear expecting compliments. It will, though, command people's attention, and you will get the occasional question,
"Whoa, what is that fragrance you're wearing?"
Like most fragrances though, I mean, like most niche fragrances, if they're done properly, they are gonna be polarizing. Some people are gonna love it, some people are gonna hate it. Niche fragrances weren't made to be likable. That's what designer fragrances are for. You buy niche fragrances for the experience, the quality, and the exclusivity. Negatives. Depending on your taste, there are cons worth noting. If you aren't into loud fragrances, you will not like this scent. It's really, really strong. Like, it's really, really strong, especially at first. This is one of those fragrances that could cause headaches for some people who are sensitive to strong scents. If I had to compare this fragrance to music, I would say like the opening is very jazzy. It's very unexpected, very all over the place. Some people will find that it's confusing and it's doing too much. Personally, I like the organized confusion of Rich Mess because it really kept me on my toes. I never felt bored by it, and every time I wore it, I noticed something I didn't notice the time I wore it before. It can come across a little rough around the edges though, so keep that in mind. This is the type of scent that needs patience to be fully appreciated. Page rating. So guys, as you know, I like to rank fragrances in what I call the page rating system, and that is P for poor, A for average, G for good, and E for exceptional. So, where does Rich Mess by Ryan Richmond land on the page? What really impresses me is the creative direction of it. Ryan Richmond has a background in fashion and cinematography, but not perfume. Many people with a similar background with the opportunity to create a fragrance would have created something designer-ish. Something like almost a high-end celebrity fragrance, you know? Very nice, but basic. Instead, this dude chose to push perfumer Christophe Laudemille into creating something really niche. Something that requires a certain taste level to really appreciate, and that takes balls. I give Rich Mess a strong A+, and that's above average. The beginning was for sure messy, and it threw me off the first few times I wore it, but that dry down really redeems that over-the-top opening. I feel like if I pay niche prices for a fragrance, I don't want it to smell common. I don't want it to smell like an under $100 designer fragrance. Rich Mess smells rich. There's nothing common about it at all. And I really like that about this fragrance. So, Rich Mess by Ryan Richmond, definitely a fragrance worth owning. It almost became a G fragrance on my rating. I just felt like if it were just a little bit smoother, it would have easily got that rating. But this fragrance is rough, and I do enjoy the roughness of it. I think that that's really interesting and unique about this scent. It's not a polished fragrance, especially in that opening, but I think that also makes it a fragrance worth owning, a fragrance worth trying, and something more artistic. So I really dig it for what it is. I really dig it for that artistic expression, and it does a really great job of making you stand out and making you smell noticeable. So there's definitely some beauty in its organized confusion. So that's what I have to say about this fragrance, guys. Have you ever smelled Rich Mess by Ryan Richmond? Let me know in the comment section if you've ever smelled this fragrance. This is the type of fragrance that, like, in the cheese world, it's a funky cheese. A lot of people love a funky cheese. People who really do cheese, they like that funky cheese. But if you're just starting out, if you're just coming out the gate with cheddar, you're not gonna like this kind of cheese. This is not gonna be the type of cheese for you. But if you're a connoisseur of cheese, if you're someone who really digs a funky, well done cheese, this could be the cheese you might love. So yeah, anyway, I don't know why I started going into that, but that kind of does help make it make sense for you, in my opinion. So yeah, definitely a fragrance worth considering, worth checking out. Thank you so much for listening and watching. It was a pleasure, dudes. I'm E, and this is Simply Put Scents. And I'm simply OUT. Peace.
And you know what else? Screw you guys. I'm going home. Screw you guys. Home.